Hello, my friends. Welcome back to English Unleashed. In today's episode, we are going to explore a very powerful and famous book, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. This book is an international bestseller. This means many people around the world have read it and found it very valuable. Robert Greene is a well-known author who writes about human behavior, psychology, and power. In this book, he explains why people think, feel, and act the way they do. But this episode is not only about ideas. It is about your English. As you listen, you will learn natural, real-life English. You will see how ideas are explained clearly using simple but meaningful language. You will also improve your listening and build your vocabulary through context, not just definitions. This is one of the best ways to learn vocabulary. At the same time, you will learn something deeper. You will learn how to understand yourself better, how to understand other people, and how to see human behavior in a clear way. So, this is not just an English lesson. It is also a lesson about life. Let's begin. Many people believe something simple. I think carefully. I make good decisions. But this is not always true. In reality, humans are often emotional, not logical. We feel first, then we think. For example, you meet someone new. After just a few seconds, you already feel something. You may think, I like this person, or I don't trust them. But why? You don't really know them yet. This is because your brain makes quick judgments. It forms a quick opinion about someone or something. These judgments are not always correct. Inside every person, there is a strong emotional side. Sometimes it controls your actions. For example, you feel angry, so you say something you regret. Regret means you feel bad about something you did. Or maybe you feel nervous, so you don't try something new. In these moments, your emotions are leading you, and your thinking becomes weaker. If you don't understand your emotions, you may make the same mistakes again and again. You may think, why did I do that? I knew it was a bad idea. But in that moment, your emotions were stronger than your logic. That is why this book teaches something important. You must learn to observe yourself, to watch yourself carefully. So the author says that you should start to notice your behavior. For example, when do I feel angry? When do I feel jealous? When do I feel unhappy because someone has something I want? When do I feel afraid? Don't judge yourself, just watch. Think like this. I feel angry right now. I feel nervous. This simple step can change everything, because when you notice your emotions, you begin to control them. Another important idea in the book is the ego. Ego is your sense of self, how you see yourself. Sometimes your ego protects you, but sometimes it lies to you. For example, you make a mistake, but instead of accepting it, you think, it's not my fault. It's their fault. This is your ego protecting you. It does not want you to feel bad. To grow as a person, you must be honest. This is not easy because the truth can be uncomfortable. For example, maybe you are not as patient as you think. Maybe you are not as kind as you believe. But this is okay because when you see the truth, you can change. Many people blame others for their problems. They say someone else is responsible. For example, I failed because the test was unfair. I lost my job because my boss is bad. Sometimes this is true, but not always. If you always blame others, you will never learn. So instead of blaming, try to take responsibility. Try to accept that your actions matter. They are important. You can ask yourself, what could I do better next time? What can I learn from this? This is a very important habit because it gives you control over your life. Try to look at your life. Do you see patterns? A pattern is something that happens again and again. Do you always choose the wrong partner? Do you always avoid difficult situations? These are not accidents, they are patterns, and patterns come from your behavior. So take some time to think. What do I do again and again? What problems keep coming back? Be honest, because when you see your patterns, you can change them. So, Robert Greene says that this is the first step in understanding human nature. Understand yourself. Not the perfect version of yourself, but the real one. With your emotions, with your mistakes, with your habits. Because when you understand yourself, you become stronger. You make better decisions. You build better relationships. You live a better life. Okay, let's slow down and think. Right now, ask yourself, what emotions do I feel today? What is one pattern in my life? What is one thing I can understand better about myself? Take your time. There is no rush. Okay, in the next part, the author talks about something very interesting. People wear masks. This is really interesting, isn't it? So, what is a mask? In this book, a mask is not a real object. It is not something you wear on your face. A mask is a way you hide your true self. Your true self means who you really are inside. So, why do people wear masks? People wear masks for many reasons. One important reason is this. People want to be liked. Yes, we all want others to like us. We want to feel accepted. So what do? We change our behavior. We act in a way that others will like. Think about your life. Are you always the same person? Probably not. At work, you act one way. With friends, you act another way. With family, you act differently again. This is normal. But sometimes the difference becomes very big. You're not just adjusting your behavior, you are hiding your real self. Let's look at a simple example. You meet someone at work. You smile. You are polite. You say kind things. But inside, you may feel, I don't really like this person. So, your outside behavior is different from your inside feelings. This is a mask. But the author says that masks are not always bad. Sometimes they help us live in society. But there is a problem. If you always wear a mask, people never see the real you. And even worse, you may forget who you really are. When you act for others all the time, you stop listening to yourself. You may ask, what do they want? Instead of, what do I want? Slowly, your true self becomes quiet, and your mask becomes stronger. Now, here is something very important. If you understand that people wear masks, you can start to see beyond them. You can start to see what is behind them. You can go deeper than what you see. This is a powerful skill because people do not always say the truth directly. People often say one thing, but do another. For example, someone says, I'm happy for you, but their face looks cold. Their voice sounds strange. You feel something is not right. This is because their words and feelings are different. There are small signals that show the truth. A signal is a small sign. A person avoids eye contact. Or they smile, but only with their mouth, not their eyes. They speak too quickly or too slowly. These small things can tell you how a person really feels. All right. Another reason people wear masks is this. They do not want to show weakness. For example, someone feels insecure. They're not confident. They're not sure about themselves. But they act very confident. They speak loudly. They act strong. This is a mask. Sometimes the mask is like protection. People think, if I show my true self, people may hurt me. So they hide. They build a mask. This is very human. Even though masks protect us, they also create distance. If you hide your real feelings, others cannot connect with you deeply. So relationships stay on the surface. This book does not say remove your mask completely. This is not realistic, but it suggests something better. Be more real, little by little. Start with small steps. Share your real opinions sometimes. Show your real feelings a little more. You do not need to say everything you feel. But you also should not hide everything. Try to find balance. Not too much, not too little. Now, when you understand masks, two things happen. First, you understand yourself better. You can ask, when am I wearing a mask? Why am I hiding? Second, you understand others better. You do not believe everything you see. You look deeper. But be careful. Do not judge people too quickly. Everyone has fears. Everyone hides something. Instead of judging, try to understand. So try to be aware. When you are aware, you see your mask. You see others' masks. Awareness means knowing what is happening inside and around you. So try to be aware. And this gives you power, not power to control people, but power to understand. All right, now the author talks about something even more important: how people try to influence and sometimes control others. To influence means to affect the way they think or act. For example, if your friend says, "Come on, try this, it's really good," and then you try it, your friend has influenced you. This is a normal part of life. We all influence each other every day. But there is a difference between influence and control. Influence is often natural and not harmful. Control is stronger. To control someone means to make them act the way you want, even if they do not fully want to do it. Some people try to control others in small, quiet ways. Others do it more directly. One common way people influence others is through emotions. They do not use logic, they use feelings. For example, someone says, "If you really cared about me, you would help me." This sentence creates pressure. You may feel guilty. So even if you do not want to help, you say yes. Some people are very good with words. They know how to say things that make you react quickly. For example, "Everyone agrees with me." You are the only one who thinks differently. This can make you feel unsure. You may start to doubt yourself. Humans have a strong need to belong. To belong means to feel part of a group. Because of this, we often follow others. If many people think something is right, we may also think it is right, even if we're not sure. This is why influence is powerful in groups. In groups, people often feel pressure to agree. This is called group pressure. For example, everyone in a group laughs at a joke. You do not find it funny, but you still laugh. Why? Because you want to fit in. To fit in means to be accepted by others. So you laugh because you want to fit in. Some people have a strong desire to control others. They may want power. These people often use emotions, words, and situations to guide your behavior. But they do it in a way that is not always obvious. Many times, control is subtle. Subtle means not clear or direct, but quiet and hidden. For example, a person may always make you feel wrong. They may say, "You always make bad decisions. You don't understand things properly." After some time, you may start to believe this. You may lose confidence. You may stop believing in yourself. This kind of control works because of your emotions. If someone repeats something again and again, your brain starts to accept it, even if it is not true. This is why it is important to stay aware. Now, the author says that we should pay attention to patterns. We should look at how people behave over time. Do they often make you feel small? Do they often make you feel guilty? These are patterns, and patterns tell you the truth. You should also learn to pause. One of the best ways to protect yourself is very simple. Pause. Stop for a short time. When someone asks you to do something, you do not have to answer immediately. You can say, "Let me think about it," or "I will get back to you." This gives you time, and time helps you think clearly. When you pause, you can ask yourself, "Do I really want to do this? Is this good for me?" Try to use logic. Try to think clearly and carefully, not just following your feelings. Now, another important idea is setting boundaries. A boundary is a limit. It is something you decide for yourself. For example, I don't want to work late every day. I don't feel comfortable with this. Saying no is part of setting boundaries. Many people find it hard to say no. They feel bad. They think, what if they don't like me? But saying no is not wrong. It means you respect yourself. Your time and energy are important. Energy means your mental and physical strength. If you always say yes to others, you may feel tired and stressed. So, you must protect your energy. You do not need to fight or argue. You can be calm and strong at the same time. For example, I understand what you're saying, but I can't do that. This is clear and respectful. The more you understand yourself, the stronger you become inside. This is called inner strength. When you have inner strength, you are less affected by pressure. You trust your decisions more. The author also says that we should always observe people, not in a negative way, but in a curious way. In a way that you want to learn and understand. Ask yourself, how do they speak? How do they react? What do they want? This helps you understand influence better. Okay, now we are going to talk about something else that is very important. Why people often act in selfish ways and how we can deal with difficult people. First, let's understand one simple truth. Every person thinks about themselves a lot. This is natural. It does not mean people are bad. It just means that each person sees the world from their own side. For example, when two people argue, both of them think they are right. Each person believes their idea is correct. They do not easily see the other person's side. This is because we all feel our own emotions strongly, but we cannot fully feel what another person feels. Because of this, people sometimes act in selfish ways without knowing it. Selfish means thinking mostly about yourself and not much about others. A person may say something that hurts you, but in their mind, they are just trying to protect themselves or get what they want. This is why it is important not to take everything personally. To take something personally means you think everything is about you. But many times, it is not about you. It is about the other person and how they feel. For example, someone speaks to you in a rude way. You may feel hurt and think, why are they like this with me? But maybe that person had a bad day. Maybe they are tired or stressed. Their behavior comes from their own situation, not from you. When you understand this, you can stay calmer. Instead of reacting quickly, you can stop and think, this is not only about me. At the same time, this does not mean you should accept bad behavior. It only means you understand it better, so you can react in a better way. Now let's talk about difficult people. In life, you will meet people who are negative, who complain a lot. They try to control others. Some people always see problems. Others always want attention. Some people try to make others feel small so they can feel strong. When you meet these people, you may feel angry or upset. But if you react with strong emotions, the situation often becomes worse. Instead, try to stay calm and observe. To observe means to watch carefully. Ask yourself, what kind of person is this? What do they usually do? For example, some people always complain. No matter what happens, they find something wrong. After some time, you will see that they repeat the same behavior again and again. This is a pattern. When you see the pattern, you stop feeling surprised. You understand that this is just how they are. This helps you stay calmer. Another type of difficult person is someone who always wants attention. They want people to listen to them all the time. If they do not get attention, they may become upset or react in a big emotional way. With this kind of person, it is better to stay calm and not react too much. You can listen, but you do not need to give strong reactions every time. There are also people who often criticize others. Sometimes this can help you improve, but some people do it too much. If someone always criticizes you, be careful. Listen to what is useful, but do not believe everything they say. Often, these people feel unsure about themselves, so they try to make others feel weak. Another important idea in this book is this: do not try to change people too quickly. Many people think they can fix others. They think, if I explain things, this person will change. But in real life, change is slow. Most people do not change easily. If you expect quick change, you may feel disappointed. Instead of trying to change others, focus on yourself. You cannot control other people, but you can control your actions and your reactions. This is where your real power is. At the same time, try to understand others. This is called empathy. Empathy means trying to understand how another person feels. For example, if someone is always angry, you can think, maybe this person has problems in their life. This does not mean their behavior is okay, but it helps you understand them better. And when you understand people better, you feel less affected by their behavior. It is also important to find balance. Do not be too soft and do not be too hard. Being too soft means you accept everything. Being too hard means you react as strongly to everything. Try to be calm and clear. You can be kind, but also strong. You can listen, but also say no. With time, this becomes easier. You will feel more in control. Things that made you upset before will not affect you so much. Now take a moment to think. Is there someone in your life who is difficult? What do they usually do? How do they react? Can you stay calmer next time? You do not need to be perfect. Just thinking about this is already a big step. All right, in the next part, the author talks about a very quiet but important emotion: envy. Envy is something many people feel, but they do not talk about it. Envy means feeling unhappy because someone else has something you want. It could be money, success, attention, or even happiness. For example, your friend gets a better job. You smile and say, "That's great." But inside, you may feel uncomfortable. You may think, "Why not me?" This is envy. It is important to understand that envy is natural. Almost everyone feels it at some point. The problem is not the feeling itself. The problem is when we do not understand it. Many people do not want to accept that they feel envy. They think it is a bad emotion. So they hide it, even from themselves. But when you hide a feeling, it does not go away. It does not disappear. It stays inside, then can affect your behavior in quiet ways. For example, if you feel envy towards someone, you may start to criticize them. You may say, "They were just lucky," or "It's not that impressive." This helps you feel a little better, but it is not honest. Sometimes envy can damage relationships. You may become colder with a friend who is doing well. You may not support them fully. You may feel distant without knowing exactly why. This is why it is important to recognize envy when it appears. When you feel it, do not judge yourself. Just notice it. You can say to yourself, "I feel envy right now." This simple awareness is very powerful. Once you see the feeling clearly, you can control your reactions. Instead of comparing yourself to others, you can focus on your own path. Everyone has a different life. Everyone moves at a different speed. Comparing yourself all the time will only make you unhappy. Compare means to look at two things and see how they are different or similar. For example, you may compare your life to someone on social media. They look happy, successful, and perfect. But you only see a small part of their life. You do not see their problems or struggles. So your comparison is not fair. When you stop comparing, you feel more peaceful. Another important point from the book is this: envy often grows when you feel unsure about yourself. If you do not feel confident, you are more likely to feel jealous of others. So, one way to reduce envy is to build your own confidence. Focus on your strengths. A strength is something you are good at. Ask yourself, what can I improve? What small steps can I take? When you focus on your own growth, you think less about others. Now let's look at envy from another perspective, from another side, from another lens. Sometimes other people feel envy toward you. You may notice that when something good happens to you, not everyone is happy for you. Some people may act differently. They may become quiet or distant. They may not support you as before. This can be confusing, but it often comes from envy. Instead of becoming angry, try to understand what is happening. They may feel insecure. They may compare themselves to you. This does not mean you should accept negative behavior, but understanding it helps you stay calm. At the same time, it is important to be careful about how you share your success. You do not need to show everything to everyone. Sometimes it is better to stay a little private. Keep some things to yourself. This can help protect your relationships. Another useful habit is to feel happy for others. This may not be easy at first, but it is very powerful. When someone succeeds, try to say, "Good for them." Their success does not take anything away from you. There is enough space in the world for everyone to grow. This way of thinking helps you feel lighter and more positive. Over time, you will notice that envy has less control over you. You become more focused, more calm, and more confident. Now take a moment to reflect. Have you ever felt envy toward someone? How did it affect your thoughts or behavior? Can you focus more on your own progress instead of comparing? Just think about it quietly. Okay, now the author talks about something very important: how people create stories in their minds and how these stories can change the way they see reality. Every day, your brain is trying to understand the world. It takes information from what you see, what you hear, and what you feel. Then it tries to make sense of everything. To make sense means to understand something in a clear way. But here is the important point. Your brain does not always see the full truth. Instead, it creates a story. A story here does not mean a book or a movie. It means a way of explaining what is happening around you. For example, imagine this situation. You send a message to a friend. They do not reply for many hours. You start thinking, maybe they are angry with me. Then you think, did I say something wrong? After some time, you feel worried or even upset. But later, your friend replies and says, "Sorry, I was very busy today." In this case, your brain created a story that was not true. This happens all the time. Your brain wants quick answers. It does not like uncertainty. It does not like not knowing what is happening or what will happen next. So, when there is missing information, your brain fills the gap. It creates a story to explain the situation. Sometimes this story is correct, but often it is not. This can create many problems in life. For example, in relationships, people often misunderstand each other. One person says something simple, but the other person hears it in a different way. They add meaning that was not there. A meaning is the idea or message behind something. Let's say someone says, "You're late again." One person may hear this as a simple fact. Another person may hear it as criticism. They may think they are angry with me or they don't respect me. So the reaction becomes emotional, even if the situation was simple. This is how small situations can become big problems. Another problem is at work. Your manager gives you feedback. They give you comments about your work, often to help you improve. But instead of hearing it as helpful advice, you may think, they think I am not good enough. You may feel upset or defensive. Defensive means trying to protect yourself when you feel attacked. Again, your brain creates a story. These stories are often influenced by your past experiences. If you had difficult experiences before, you may expect negative things to happen again. So your brain creates negative stories more easily. This is why two people can see the same situation in very different ways. One person may think, this is a problem. Another person may think, this is an opportunity. This is a chance to do something good. So the situation is the same, but the story is different. This shows us something important. Your thoughts are not always facts. A fact is something that is true and real, but your thoughts are often just interpretations. Interpretation means your personal way of understanding something. This, my friends, is a very powerful idea. If you can understand that your thoughts are not always true, you can become calmer and more balanced. Instead of reacting immediately, the author says that you can pause and ask yourself, is this really true? Or is this just my story? And this small question can change everything. Now, let's go back to the example of the message. Instead of thinking, they are ignoring me, you can think, maybe they are busy. I don't know yet. This creates less stress and helps you stay calm. Another important idea is that people often believe their own stories very strongly. They repeat these stories again and again in their minds. Over time, the story feels like truth. For example, a person may think, I'm not good at speaking. They repeat this idea many times, and after some time, they believe it completely. But maybe this is not true. Maybe they just had a few bad experiences. This kind of thinking can limit you. It will stop you from growing and improving. If you believe negative stories about yourself, you may stop trying. You may avoid new situations. You may stay in your comfort zone. A comfort zone is a place or situation where you feel safe and relaxed, but you do not grow much. This is why it is important to question your own stories. Ask yourself, where did this idea come from? Is this always true? Can I see it in a different way? This does not mean you ignore reality. It means you look at it more clearly. It is also important to understand that other people have their own stories too. When someone reacts strongly, It is often because of the story in their mind, not just the situation in front of them. For example, if someone becomes very angry, it may not be only about what happened now. It may be connected to something from their past. When you understand this, you become more patient. Patient means able to stay calm and not become angry quickly. Instead of reacting with anger, you can think, there is more behind this reaction. This helps you avoid unnecessary conflict. Conflict means a strong disagreement or argument. At the same time, this does not mean you accept everything. It just means you understand the situation better before you react. One very useful habit is to check your story before you act. Before you send an angry message, before you argue, before you make a decision, stop for a moment and ask, am I sure this is true? Sometimes, just waiting a little can change your reaction completely. You may see the situation more clearly. Another helpful habit is to ask questions instead of making assumptions. An assumption is something you believe is true without clear proof. For example, instead of thinking, they don't care about me, you can ask, is everything okay? You seemed quiet today. This opens the door for real communication. When people communicate well, there are fewer misunderstandings. Over time, as you become more aware of your thoughts, you will feel more in control. You will not react so quickly to every situation. You will see things more clearly. This brings more peace to your mind. Now take a moment to reflect. Think about a recent situation where you felt upset. What story did your mind create? Was it completely true, or was it only one possible explanation? Can you see the situation in a different way now? There is no need to be perfect. Just becoming aware of your thinking is already a big step. All right, now the author talks about something very human and very powerful: the need for attention and recognition. Every person wants to feel seen. Every person wants to feel important. This is a natural and human need. Recognition means feeling that other people see you, respect you, and value what you do. For example, when you do a good job and someone says, well done, you feel good. You feel that your effort matters. An effort is the work and energy you put into something. This feeling is very important for people. It gives them motivation. It gives them energy or reason to do what they do. But this need can also create problems. Some people need too much attention. They want others to always look at them, listen to them, and agree with them. If they do not get this attention, they may feel upset or even angry. You can see this in everyday life. For example, someone is telling a story in a group. Another person suddenly starts talking about themselves. They change the topic. They want the attention. This is a common behavior. It does not always mean the person is bad. It often means that they need attention to feel important. Another example is on social media. People share pictures, ideas, and stories. They look for likes, comments, and reactions. These small signs of attention can make people feel happy. But if they do not get enough attention, they may feel disappointed or even insecure. This shows how strong the need for recognition is. Now let's look deeper. Some people do not ask for attention directly. Instead, they look for it in quiet ways. For example, they may complain a lot. They may say, "Nothing is going right in my life." When they say this, they're not only sharing a problem, they are also looking for care and attention. Others may try to be perfect. They work very hard, always trying to do everything well. They want people to notice them and respect them. This is another way of looking for recognition. There are also people who try to get attention by being different. They may act in a special or unusual way. They want others to see them as unique. All these behaviors come from the same place: the need to feel important. Now, it is important to understand something. This need is not wrong, but if it becomes too strong, it can control your behavior. For example, if you always need others to approve of you, you may change your actions just to make people happy. To approve means to say something is good or acceptable. You may stop being yourself. You may say yes when you want to say no. You may hide your real opinions. Over time, this can make you feel tired and confused. That is why it is important to build your own sense of value. Value means how important or good you believe you are. If your value only comes from others, it becomes unstable. It changes easily and is not strong. But if you feel good about yourself from inside, you become more stable. You still enjoy positive feedback, but you do not depend on it. Now let's think about how to deal with people who need a lot of attention. First, try to understand them. They are often not confident inside. They use attention to feel better. This does not mean you should give them all your energy. You can listen and be kind, but you should also protect your time and energy. For example, if someone always talks about themselves, you can gently change the topic. You can also choose not to react too strongly every time. If you react with a lot of attention, they will continue the same behavior. Second, do not compete for attention. Sometimes people try to be louder, funnier, or more interesting than other people. This creates tension. Tension means a feeling of stress between people. Instead, stay calm and natural. You do not need to prove anything all the time. Third, focus on real connections. A connection means a real and meaningful relationship between people. Real connections are not about attention. They are about understanding, respect, and honesty. When you build real connections, you feel more satisfied. You feel happy because your needs are met. Now let's turn back to yourself. Ask yourself, do I often look for attention? In what situations? Do you feel uncomfortable when people do not notice you? These are important questions. Again, do not judge yourself. Just observe. If you notice that you need attention often, try to build your confidence step by step. Focus on your skills. Focus on your progress. Celebrate small improvements. For example, if you're learning English, notice your progress. Maybe you understand more than before. Maybe you can speak more clearly now. These small steps matter. When you see your own progress, you depend less on others for recognition. This gives you more freedom. You can be yourself more easily. You can make decisions based on what you think is right, not just what others expect. Over time, you will feel more calm and balanced. Now take a moment to reflect. When do you feel the need for attention? How do you react when you do not get it? Can you feel good about yourself without others' approval? Just think about it quietly. In the next part, I will talk about another important idea: how people often act differently in groups and why group behavior can change the way we think and act. The author has very interesting ideas about this. As I mentioned, now we are going to talk about how people behave in groups and why group situations can change the way we think and act. When you are alone, you usually think in your own way. You make decisions based on your own ideas, your values, and your experience. But when you are in a group, something changes. In a group, people often do not think in the same clear way as when they are alone. They are influenced by the people around them. This is very important to understand. For example, imagine you are in a group and everyone agrees on something. Even if you are not sure, you may start to agree too. You may think, maybe they are right, or I don't want to be different. This is because people want to feel part of the group. The author says that because of this, they often follow the group, even when they're not completely sure. This can be helpful sometimes. For example, in a team, people need to work together. They need to agree and cooperate. They need to work together with others. But this can also create problems. Sometimes people follow the group without thinking carefully. They stop using their own judgment. This is called group thinking. In group thinking, people agree quickly. They do not ask questions. They do not challenge ideas. As a result, the group may make bad decisions. Another important point is that emotions become stronger in groups. For example, if one person is excited, others may also feel excited. If one person is angry, the feeling can spread quickly. This is called emotional influence. In a group, emotions can move from one person to another very fast. This is why people sometimes act very differently in groups. For example, a person who is usually calm may become loud and emotional in a crowd. In some situations, people may even do things they would never do alone. Why does this happen? One reason is that people feel less responsible in a group. In a group, people may think everyone is doing it, so it's okay. They feel that the responsibility is shared. Because of this, they may act more freely, sometimes in negative ways. Another reason is that people feel more confident when they are not alone. The group gives them support, even if the action is not good. This is why it is important to stay aware in group situations. Always ask yourself, do I really agree with this, or am I just following others? This question helps you stay connected to your own thinking. Now let's look at a simple example. Imagine you are in a meeting at work. Someone shares an idea. Everyone says, yes, that's a great idea. But you're not sure. You see some problems with it. In this moment, you have two choices. You can stay quiet and follow the group, or you can speak and share your opinion. This is not always easy. Speaking against a group can feel uncomfortable. But sometimes it is very important because different opinions help people make better decisions. Another example is in social situations. Imagine your friends want to do something you do not feel comfortable with. Maybe it is not right for you, but everyone is saying yes. You may feel pressure to agree. This is group pressure. In these moments, it is important to remember your boundaries. As I said before, the author says that boundaries are your personal limits. Robert Greene, the author, says that we can say no even if others say yes. This shows strength and self-respect. Now, this does not mean you should always go against a group. Sometimes the group is right. Sometimes it is good to follow and cooperate. The key is balance. Think for yourself, but also listen to others. Be open, but not controlled. Another useful idea is to observe how groups work. Notice who speaks the most. Notice who influences others. Notice how decisions are made. This helps you understand group dynamics. Dynamics means how things work and change in a situation. For example, in some groups, one person has a strong influence. Others follow them easily. In other groups, people share ideas more equally. When you understand these patterns, you can act more wisely. You can decide when to speak, when to listen, and when to step back. Over time, you will feel more confident in group situations. You will not feel lost or controlled. Instead, you will feel calm and aware. Now take a moment to reflect. Think about a group you are part of. It could be work, friends, or family. How do you act in that group? Do you always agree with others? Or do you share your own ideas? Can you stay true to yourself, even in a group? Just think about it. Okay, in this part, the author talks about habits and how repeated actions slowly shape your personality and your life. A habit is something you do again and again, often without thinking too much. For example, brushing your teeth, checking your phone in the morning, or drinking coffee every day. At first, a habit feels like a small action. It does not seem very important, but over time, these small actions become very powerful. They shape how you think, how you act, and even how you feel. For example, imagine a person who wakes up every day and immediately checks their phone. They look at messages, social media, and news. This becomes part of their routine. A routine is a regular way of doing things. At first, it feels normal, but over time, this habit can affect their focus. It can make their mind busy and distracted at the start of the day. Distracted means not able to focus well. Now imagine another person. They wake up, take a few minutes to sit quietly, and think about their day. They start slowly and calmly. This is also a habit. And over time, this habit creates a different kind of mind, more calm and focused. So even though both actions are small, the long-term effect is very different. This shows an important idea. Small habits, repeated every day, create big results. Your life is not only shaped by big decisions, it is also shaped by small daily actions. Now let's go deeper. Many habits are automatic. Automatic means you do them without thinking. For example, when you feel bored, you may pick up your phone without thinking about it. Or when you feel stressed, you may eat something or avoid your work. These habits often start for a reason. Maybe they helped you feel better at some point, but later, they may not be helpful anymore. This is why it is important to become aware of your habits. Ask yourself, what do I do every day without thinking? Which habits help me and which ones do not? This is the first step to change. Now, changing habits is not easy. Many people try to change quickly. They say, from tomorrow, I will be completely different. But after a few days, they go back to their old habits. Why does this happen? Because habits are strong. They are built through repetition. Your brain likes habits because they make life easier. You do not need to think about every action. You save energy. So, when you try to change a habit, your brain resists. This is normal. That is why it is better to change slowly. Instead of big changes, start with small steps. For example, if you want to use your phone less, do not say, I will never use my phone. This is too difficult. Instead, you can say, I will not use my phone for the first 10 minutes in the morning. This is a small, clear action. When you repeat this small change every day, it becomes a new habit. Over time, small changes grow. This is how real change happens. Another important idea is this. Habits are connected to your environment. For example, if your phone is always next to you, you will use it more. If you keep unhealthy food in your house, you will eat it more easily. So sometimes, instead of trying to control yourself, you can change your environment. For example, you can put your phone in another room when you want to focus. You can keep a book near your bed instead of your phone. These small changes make good habits easier and bad habits harder. Now let's connect this idea to human nature. People often believe they cannot change. They say, this is just how I am. But this is not true. Your personality is not fixed. It can change. In reality, your behavior changes slowly through your habits. If you change your habits, you change your behavior. And over time, you change yourself. For example, If you practice speaking English a little every day, you will improve. At first, it feels difficult, but after some time, it becomes natural. This is the power of repetition and habit. Another example is if you practice staying calm in difficult situations, over time, you become a calmer person. Now let's think about negative habits. Some habits limit you. Limit means to stop something from growing. For example, always avoiding difficult things, always saying I can't, or always comparing yourself to others can limit you. These habits create a pattern in your life. But the good news is you can change these patterns. First, notice the habit. Then, replace it with a better one. For example, instead of saying, I can't do this, you can say, I will try, even if it is difficult. This small change in thinking can lead to different actions. Over time, your confidence grows. Now, it's important to be patient. Change takes time. Many people give up too early, but habits need time to grow. Think of it like planting a seed. You do not see results immediately, but if you continue, it grows. In the same way, your habits grow slowly. So keep going, even if the progress feels small. Now, take a moment to reflect. What is one habit you repeat every day? Is it helping you or limiting you? What is one small change you can start today? Just one small step is enough. And now we have come to the end of today's episode. In this episode, we explore many powerful ideas from The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. We talked about understanding yourself, your emotions, your habits, and your patterns. We learned that people often wear masks and that what we see is not always the full truth. We explored how influence works and how you can protect yourself by pausing, thinking, and setting clear boundaries. We talked about difficult people and how staying calm and aware helps you deal with them in a smarter way. We looked at envy and how comparing yourself to others can quietly affect your thoughts and your happiness. We learned that your mind creates stories and that your thoughts are not always facts. We explored the need for attention and how real confidence comes from inside, not from others. We talked about group behavior and how important it is to think for yourself, even when you are with others. We saw how habits shape your life and how small actions, repeated every day, can create big changes. All of these ideas connect in a simple way. When you understand yourself better, you understand people better. And when you understand people better, life becomes easier, clearer, and more balanced. You don't need to change everything at once. Just start small. Notice your thoughts. Notice your reactions. Notice your habits. Little by little, things will change. And as you continue learning English, remember this. You are not only learning new words, you are learning a new way to think, to observe, and to understand the world. So take your time, stay consistent, and trust yourself. you are doing something really valuable. Thanks for listening, my friends. I'm Tom, and I will see you in the next episode of English Unleashed.